Hello, Vector Marketing Recruiting Team. My name is Marie, and I'm going to be taking you through the 5 basics of an extraordinary scheduling call. When you do these 5 basic but essential things on every call, the likelihood of your prospect scheduling and showing will be at the absolute max, and you'll crush your stats. As we talk through these, go ahead and follow along with your handout and fill in the blanks. The first basic is to follow the approach. Follow the approach. This word-for-word script has been refined over several million calls over the last 15 years. It's the best method to deliver the necessary information in the shortest amount of time. It doesn't lack anything, and there's nothing extra that needs to be removed. Think of every phone call like making a cake. Every sentence is like a key ingredient, and if you take out even one ingredient, your 5-star cake could wind up as a failure. And that would not be a good look. When you first read the script, it might not be immediately obvious what each sentence is accomplishing. So if you're ever in a situation where you're a little uncomfortable or unsure about why we say what we say, no problem. Ask your manager and they will absolutely explain it to you. The approach is a proven program designed to set someone for an interview. Set someone for an interview. That's goal number 1 of every call. Don't overcomplicate things by winging it. That can create questions and confusion. Confusion is the enemy of good shows. Following the approach allows for consistency between the advertising, phone call, interview training, and also your results. Consistency and results. Consistency is key. You might be wondering, if every caller is using the same words, why doesn't every caller get the same results? Which leads us to our second basic. Building rapport. The definition of rapport is a relationship or connection that makes communication possible and easy. Write that down. A relationship or connection that makes communication possible and easy. Every RA can say the same thing, but people with rapport communicate better. Building rapport shows the caller we care. Even though we track our numbers, Vector doesn't treat people like statistics. Every call is a new chance to help somebody, maybe even change their life. By talking to them about things like their interests, major, past employment, you're making the caller feel more comfortable, which will also make your job easier when it comes to objections or scheduling their interview later on. Feel more comfortable and make your job easier. Building connections also helps us to find their hot button. What's a hot button? In other words, what do they need from us in order to feel comfortable scheduling and coming into the office? Everybody's got a hot button. Some people might feel like they're too busy with school to make money, but when they learn that the schedules are flexible, or when they learn that there's a scholarship program for students, or that other people from their school work in your office and are crushing it, now they're ready to come in. But if you don't build rapport, you'll never be able to discover what they need and how we can help. You'll never find their hot button, and that stinks. The final benefit of building rapport is for you. It's so that you can develop communication and networking skills. Communication is a skill like anything else. Every day you work at Vector, your skills are going to get a little bit better and your network a little bit bigger. Here are some tips to effectively build rapport with people over the phone. First, always ask questions about work and school. Work and school. People love to talk about themselves, so give them a chance. Next, always ask open-ended questions instead of yes or no questions. Asking, you're an engineering major, what's that like? Is far better than asking, is being an engineering major a lot of work? The more they talk, the more rapport you build and the more they trust you. Which also means you need to practice active listening. That means not asking the caller, are you in school right now? If they already mentioned they go to the same school as their friend. That looks like you don't care. Instead, you want to say something like, you mentioned you're in school right now. How do you like it? And finally, a great way to build rapport is the who, what, when, where, why, how technique. The who, what, when, where, why, how technique. Some questions you could ask would be, what Starbucks did you work at? Cool. What did you do there? Well, that sounds challenging. When did you start? Why did you leave? How long did you work there? This is going to give you a really great starting point for effectively building rapport and connecting with your prospects. The third basic is objections. Objections. The definition of an objection is any question or issues that may arise during a phone call. Any question or issue that may arise during the call that would prevent them from checking us out. It could be anything from a question about the duties, the pay, the product, or a busy schedule that we have to work around. Here's the good news. Having questions means the person is smart and interested. Smart and interested. Questions are not a bad thing. Some of your best callers will have questions, and I'll teach you exactly how to handle them. Keep in mind that you're not an answering service. A college student wouldn't schedule an interview with Best Buy and immediately ask, am I working Mondays at 7 or Tuesdays at 2? Am I demonstrating cell phones or am I working the register? That isn't appropriate for the initial phone call. There's a time and place for all the details, and they involve meeting with the manager. Now, that doesn't mean we ignore their question. Here's how to give them appropriate information. It's called the objection cycle, and it's a 3-step process for handling questions. Fill these in. Step 1 is to answer the question using the appropriate objection. Step 2 is to ask another question to regain control. And step 3 is to go back to the approach right where you left off. The most important piece of this, the one that you want to learn right away, is step number 2, which is asking another question. Asking another question allows you to regain control and/or direct the conversation. Regain control and direct the conversation. The person who asks the question is the one deciding where the conversation is going. And as the gatekeeper, we want that to always be us. So read your answer, ask another question, and when they're finished talking, go back to the approach immediately, right where you left off. You don't want to pause because that would allow them to ask another question or may create an awkward gap. I recommend reading the approach with your finger or with a pen to mark where you last were. That way you don't skip or repeat anything you just said when you go back to the script. Keep in mind that not everyone's going to schedule, and that's okay. But it's your job to give the proper information to the caller so they can make their decision based on facts. And objections are a big way to make sure our callers are getting the correct information. You don't need to memorize them, but practice the objections so you become comfortable with them. You can even decorate the sides of the page with little pictures to be able to quickly find the correct objection. Some people draw a knife by the product or a $sign by the one about pay. That way you're able to quickly go to the correct answer without having to search for it. If they interrupt and ask a question that pertains to something covered later in the approach, that's good. It shows they're eager. Compliment the question and let them know you're going to be covering that in just a minute. Most importantly, relax. Don't panic with questions. Read them slowly and with confidence, and you'll be fine. The fourth basic is urgency and scheduling. When scheduling someone for the interview, we use words and phrases to get them to come in sooner rather than later. The more time that goes by between the phone call and the appointment, the more time that goes by, the less likely they are to show to the interview. Which stinks because you spent all this effort answering questions, building rapport, helping them out by finding a time, and now they miss out because too much time went by. The reasons they might not show for the interview are they forget about the interview. They forget. Maybe they didn't write it down or they forgot to put it in their calendar. Maybe they receive another job interview or offer. If they're looking for work, they're applying a lot of places, and we want to be the first company that invites them in to interview. The best people get jobs quickly. And lastly, If a lot of time goes by, they might make other personal plans. Stuff always comes up when there's a big gap of time. The less time, the better. When we have them come in right away for the next available interview, we decrease the likelihood of one of those things happening. Keep in mind that you reaching out can be an unexpected phone call, so we don't want to be pushy about it. You want to respect where they're coming from, but at the same time, set them up for success and show them the benefit of coming in as soon as possible. What are the benefits of them coming in right away? Well, they can start training faster, oftentimes within the next 5 days. If their friend just started, they can go through the training seminar with their friend, and that's cool. They can start working and making money faster. If they're leaving for school soon, not coming in right away could cost them a week of income, which means if they're good at the position, that might cost them $300 to $600 or more. That's a semester worth of books. Some examples of what our best callers say, these aren't on your sheets, but you might want to write it down. You can say things like, since James referred you to the opening, I can actually fast track the application process and get you in today at 3 p.m. Does that work for you? The phrase fast track the application process is really strong and shows your authority. Another good one, because you were recommended by James, my manager would be able to meet with you right away. I have an opening today at 5 p.m. How does that sound? It's like, hey, you're cool with James? You get special treatment. Remind him there are other people interested in the position by saying things like, oh, I just got off the phone with someone who also goes to school at Bishop Moore. Or, I just talked to someone that lives in that area too. Don't lie, but don't be afraid to let people know they're not the only ones applying. Urgency is everything. If somebody is irresponsible, whatever, they probably wouldn't get offered the position anyway. But we don't want to miss a chance at building our team with an A-plus player because we scheduled them too far in the future and something came up. Avoid that happening by scheduling them for the next available interview or as soon as possible. The next available interview or as soon as possible. Even if it's today. Keep in mind that listing off a dozen interview times makes the caller lose the sense of urgency and motivation. Giving out too many times almost makes us look kind of desperate. So how many interview options do we give them at first? Only one at a time. Only one at a time. Offer suggestions around what they have going on. Okay, you need to bring your dad to the airport? Is there somebody else that can do that? Your dad would probably be psyched that you took the initiative to schedule an interview. And no matter what, don't use wimpy words like, do you think, or be assertive and have positive expectations. If you talk like you expect them to schedule and show, they will. Remember, you're not an answering service. You are the gatekeeper between them and incredible opportunity. So don't be afraid to ask someone if they can rearrange their schedule to accommodate the interview. Offer suggestions, coach them a little bit, be on their side, help them solve their problems. And they'll thank you for it when they sell 10K and hit their 30% pay raise. The fifth and final basic is the ending of the call, also called the firm up. This is where we cover all the information they need to be successful in their interview. And the most important thing is to not rush this part. RUSH, don't rush. If people don't feel like they're going to succeed or they're unsure what's going to happen when they arrive at the office, they might be too nervous to show. Interviewing can be a really stressful thing, especially for inexperienced students. So the first thing to do is to read everything back letter by letter. This includes their name and their email, letter by letter. Okay, Haley, I have your email as HAILEYLOVE handout@gmail.com. Is that correct? Doing this is professional and creates legitimacy. Next, write in confidence and excitement. Confidence and excitement. Other ways to build up their confidence and excitement about the interview are to say things like, I think you're going to do really well at your interview because you come across as a really friendly person or a really confident person. When you say something like this, only if it's true, obviously, it builds a really strong connection. And another great confidence builder, be sure to mention to the manager that you were recommended by James. It will help you stand out in the interview. Again, cool with James, cool with us. You can even incorporate something from earlier in the call to show them that you are paying attention and truly connecting with them. This is where the position gets fun. Something like, it was great talking with you, Ashley. I'm looking forward to meeting you today at 3:30 after your chemistry quiz. Good luck on that. I bet you'll do great. We'll see you later. The firm up is the last impression the caller will have of you and the company. It's your chance to make them feel 100% prepared and excited for their interview. You want to make sure that you end on a positive note and you have them get off the phone feeling confident. And so, ladies and gentlemen, that's the 5 basics. Take some time to review your notes, fill in the blanks, and practice your approach out loud until you sound confident. You'll probably watch this video again after you take calls because these basics are the key to success. Again, there's no need to memorize the approach, but there is a need to always say it confidently. Follow the 5 basics on every call, and you'll have awesome